welcome to our event. It's a pleasure to have you all here with us, and you are most welcome. And I would like to welcome all our panelists that are here with us today. You are most welcome from wherever you are. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon from Uganda. My name is Susan Penelope Kemanzi, and I will be your moderator today as we go through our event. I would also like to wish you a happy International Day of the Girl Child. Joining us today, and because of this day, we are honored to have our event today. And our event is going to be focusing on digital transformation in this regard to the young people, but also to the theme of this day for the young child, for the girl child. And this year, we commemorate the 10th anniversary of the Day of the Girl. And there we can believe that there has been great increase in the matters to do with girls and young people amongst governments, policymakers, and the general public, and more opportunities for girls have been put on emphasis. And we have a lot of things change, but we cannot also ignore the challenges that are still there. And we believe that there is a lot of things we want to discuss today. And with the panelists that we have, which is a very good thing, our panelists is graced people who have come out to be change makers, and they have been engaged in different activities, as we will hear from them and as they will share with us today. So I would like to take this opportunity to introduce our panelists. One of our panelists today is Ubah Ali. Ubah Ali is a social activist from Somaliland. Ali is pursuing a master's in international and cooperation at the University of Stirling. Ali completed her bachelor's degree at the American University of Beirut in political science and international law in 2020. She was listed by the BBC as the world's most influential 100 women due to her campaign against injustice. You are most welcome, Ubah Ali. Our next panelist is Ahmed Alabi. Ahmed is passionate about education, access in underserved communities, and for young people with focused migration backgrounds. Growing up in a slum, Makoko, Nigeria, education became his lifeline, and he has dedicated 13 years to working in the same space. Started as a teacher at the age of 15 and later founded a non-profit KLCI that has helped over 4,000 children in underdeserved communities in Nigeria, developed life and 21st century skills. He also completed his master's degree in Africa and international development at the University of Edinburgh through the Mastercard Foundation Scholarship, and researched the Foundation for All FFA projects, a bridging education program that prepares refugee learners for higher education in Uganda through blended learning. He specifically explores the experiences of refugees in accessing higher education in Uganda. Wow, you are welcome, Ahmed, and we will be able to hear from you how you are able to be from Nigeria and you are working with refugees in Uganda. You are welcome. And our next panelist is Fahima Ali. Fahima Ali is a second year MA International Master's degree in International Affairs, candidate at Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University. She's concentrating in international business and global governance. Fahima completed a bachelor's degree at Columbia University, originally from Somaliland. She interned for a hedge fund and a real estate firm in New York City. She founded Heal Movement, an initiative whose mission is to help Somali women in all aspects of their lives by creating and strengthening their collective power. This summer, she interned with the We Empower project at Arizona State University, a UN SDG competition that promotes women entrepreneurs from all around the world who are supporting the UN Sustainable Development Goals through their business endeavors. We are most welcome, Fahima, and we can't wait to hear a diverse experience of knowledge and wisdom. And our dear participants would like to welcome you to the Baobab platform. Baobab platform is a digital platform, and today we are happy that we are going to be discussing about digital transformation. And I can tell you that digital platforms have a variety of examples, but in particular, we will be looking at how media creating content kind of platforms. For instance, social media platforms. We'll be looking at search engine platforms, and we'll be looking at that at different ways of how the young people can leverage on digital platforms to be the change in their communities. And we have several questions for our panelists, and I'm sure they are ready to answer all of them. And I will be going right away into the questions so that we can have enough time to finish all of them. So I will request our panelists, even if I have made a brief introduction, I will request our panelists to give us a brief description of what they have been doing in terms of how have they been using digital platforms to create change in their communities. And I will be starting with Ubah, and then Fahima can join next. Thank you. Ubah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Susan, and thank you for having us. And thank you everyone for joining this event. And it's my pleasure to be a part of this event, and celebrating for girls around the world means so much to me. So I'm Ubah and I'm from Somaliland. So I have been using digital platforms for the past, like I would say, 6 years. And from the beginning, I was not serious, and I did not know that you could change a lot through social media or digital platforms. But I learned that through the pandemic time, that, you know, when I was just stuck with my phone and my computer, that I could actually do and still reach out to many communities and many people that I was not able to reach before. And you can also have meetings and talk to people that you might not even be able to reach if if, like, let's say the pandemic did never happen, because everything went online. So I learned that you can also learn new skills and continue my activism and what I do also through social media.
Thank you, Ubah. Ubah, you just mentioned something to do like you did not know that using social media could be one way to reach out to people. That means that you've been able to not be in Somaliland, but still impact people in Somaliland. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only in Somaliland, but everywhere. Because I remember when the Me Too movement happened, I realized, the impact of social media platforms. You can just use a hashtag, and that hashtag could be an international, and everyone will be able to use that hashtag. So I was learning a lot from those skills, and the way that I could replicate and help my communities in Somaliland, but also people all around the world.
Thank you, Ubah, for that experience. And I would like to hear, what is Fahima's experience regarding digital platforms? And Fahima, how do you use digital platforms to create change in your community given that your bio shows that you've not actually been in Somaliland for a very long time. So how have you done it?
Hi, Penelope. Thank you. And thank you everyone for coming. So I have been in Somaliland last summer. I mean, 2 summers ago, I came to the US for high school and then college, and now I am in graduate school. However, I am constantly in touch with Somalilanders. I watch Somaliland news, and I know what's happening on the ground. I grew up in Somaliland, and one thing that I have always seen was the power of Somaliland women. I looked at my mom and I saw her resilience, her strength. She raised a lot of children by herself. I looked at my siblings. However, I didn't see a lot of women in politics, and in places where people were having discussions about laws and legislations that could impact women. So one thing that pushed me and encouraged me to start Heal Movement, which is an organization whose mission is to strengthen and construct and create Somaliland women's collective power, is to actually, bring Somaliland women together, since they are the ones who vote at a higher rate than men, and show them what's happening in the political landscape of Somaliland, show them what they are capable of doing, and the reason why they are needed in politics. So, and one thing we do with Heal Movement that has actually created a movement of strong Somaliland women who can say, yes, I can go to school and learn political science. Yes, I can go to school and become a lawyer. Yes, I can go to school and become the Ministry of Education in Somaliland, was having them come together at Heal Movement and see what other women are capable of doing. So one thing that I have realized is that when girls see other successful girls who are pushing themselves so hard to graduate and to achieve their goals, was when a girl reached out to me and said, wow, this mission has empowered me, because every time I go to school, my professor tells me that I can't become a political scientist, that this is for men. And that has pushed me further, to publish a list of girls who are studying law, who are studying political science, and have girls, see that they are capable of doing anything that they want.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Fahima. Just to let you know, our dear people who have joined us on the call, is that we also have another panelist, but he's going to join us later. He's a gentleman, so our panel is balanced somehow, but since it is a Day of the Girl, we are privileged to have more ladies on the panel. So enjoy that. And in the meantime, I will go ahead and ask. So one of the things that we face while using these digital platforms is that we are interfacing with a wide and diverse community. And sometimes people will not be okay with what we are sharing. Sometimes it's going to be so hard for them to hear. So what are some of the challenges you have faced when it comes to addressing sensitive topics on digital platforms? Either Fahima, you can start, or and Ubah will join.
And sure. So one of the challenges I realized I came across was, every time I talk about women's rights, or every time I try to digest the constitution and legislations that have been passed, a lot of men, tend to label me as, Western feminist or feminist, or bringing ideologies that don't go in with Islamic law, and they are trying to use that to silence me. I know that they don't believe what I am saying, and the fact that I am, literally analyzing the constitution and the rights that the constitution gives to Somaliland women, that they don't believe I'm bringing. Western feminism to Somaliland, or that I'm saying something wrong. I think they are threatened by my words. They are threatened by strong women who are saying we are no longer going to accept this. And what I realize is that instead of my reacting to, their name calling or insulting, I just say, you know what, look, this is the constitution, this is the legislation, these were passed, they were created by men. So are you telling me that what I am talking is wrong when this is something that you have produced for women, and they have nothing to say. And another thing I have realized is that when I talk about laws or legislation or use data to debunk and their way of thinking, a lot of people come on board. A lot of people have started supporting the rights of women, and I have found that to be helpful. And it's not only men, it's also a lot of women who have been taught for a really long time that their role is to stay at home and only be moms, and instead of my telling them what to do, I ask them questions. For example, one thing I do, I ask women is, people are okay with you sitting in the sun, selling tomatoes and potatoes all day long. Why can't they be okay with you being in the parliament? You'll be doing the same work. Why are they okay with one and not okay with the other? And women start thinking about, why, wow, let me step back and look at, the discussions that these people are having. Yes, if they are okay with my being outside campaigning for men, being outside and being told to clap for men, why can't they be outside doing the same thing for women? So people are starting to have these conversations. They are starting to ask these questions and to each other. So that is a great trend and that I have seen.
Wow, that's amazing. I see someone in the chat has commented that Fahima, future president of Somaliland. I think and I agree with her or him because I like the energy of what you're doing and the passion that you're showing in your statements. And I like the fact that with the use of these digital platforms, you are able, despite the challenges, you are able to find people who are agreeing with you. And I believe that even keeps you more and more passionate about what you're doing, and you know that you're doing the right thing. So, Ubah Ali, what has been your challenge dealing with such sensitive topics? I believe you have dealt with the topic of female genital mutilation in Somaliland, and I know that in Africa, that's a sensitive topic to handle. How have you dealt with the challenges, and how are you overcoming them?
Thank you so much, Susan, again. And I agree with everything that Fahima said. And of course, when you are on social media, when you are talking about some sensitive topic that people might not support, of course, you will have enemies. Of course, you will have people who will attack you every single day. And cyberbullying, it's a real thing. And if you are not aware of that, you will be disappointed. You might not be able to reach your goal, or you might also tend to lose the mission of what you are doing. But I think it's very important that you understand that you have a target, that you have a mission. When I started using social media, I always campaign for women's rights. I always campaign for minority rights. And I always talk about some sensitive topics. And I remember when I was in the American University of Beirut, I was migrant refugee rights activist. And especially when you are in Lebanon and you are talking about migrant rights and why migrant rights should be respected, I started using social media, especially on Twitter. And I remember me tagging the ministries of Lebanon, and I will talk about and take evidence and use examples of what the Beirut government's doing to those migrant domestic workers who are mainly from Ethiopia, from Ghana, from Nigeria. And those girls, they are very young and they might not even have the luxury or the social platforms where they could talk about what's actually happening to them. And I remember me being like, I always think about what was happening in your mind at that time, because I'm not from Lebanon. I don't know the culture that much. I was just a student, but I could not take it anymore. I started working with some NGOs that were supporting migrant workers in Beirut. And I started like talking about this topic, you know, even talking to my university, asking them that they should be vocal about this topic, going on social media, tagging the Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Women's Rights, or whatever like the country had. I tried to reach out to every organization or every governmental organization that I thought would help the situation. And at that time, I remember me sharing my experience as a Black woman in Beirut and the discrimination that I face every single day. And me being vocal, that has inspired at least many people who were in Beirut, or many people who actually care about this topic, to be my allies and to support what I was trying to shed light on. And on the other side, I also had a lot of people who were against me, especially, you know, people who did not care about migrant rights, people who did not care about Black rights or African rights. And at that time, I was like, there were a point that I was very scared and I thought I would be killed, me walking on the streets of Beirut. But I was like, if you die because you are doing a mission. And if you survived, because you at least you will leave a footprint, at least you know that there are people in Beirut who believe in you and who will be basically carry on what you were doing. So of course, you know, sometimes there are days that you will be disappointed, that you will cry because when you see the comments that people are writing. But in order to care about my mental health and my well-being and my physical, you know, being, I started to ignore some of the negative comments that people write about what I post. So that actually has helped me to, you know, get rid of some negativity, but also focus on the good thing that I'm doing. Like those people who are supporting me, think about the positive comments, think about people that I see on the streets that are saying, thank you for speaking about this topic, you know, and my teachers were constantly reminding me, like, keep doing what you're doing. And also when it comes to Somaliland, of course, I am from a patriarchal country that, you know, do not support women's rights or women's activism on the political system, or, you know, who always treats women as a second-class citizens. And I don't want to like live in that country and, you know, see how women are being treated, as Fahima said, in my country. So I always talk about, you know, women's rights and why women's inclusion in the political system is very important, and why we need to create a justice system where women's voices, women's rights are included, and why we need women policy makers in the decision making, because in our parliament, there are 82 members and all of them are male. And if we don't talk about those, you know, no one will talk about, you know, on behalf of us. We need women in those, in the parliament. We need women in the government, in every sector. So, you know, me being vocal about that, of course, people might not like it, especially like some people who are traditionalists, but I really don't care. And when it comes to FGM, I believe in FGM should be eradicated. And one of the ways that we can eradicate FGM is making sure that we add more women, more men who are women allies to the political decision and political system. And that's the only way that we can create a collective society where people, you know, have a commonality and care about at least fundamental rights.
Wow, 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 wow. If there is one thing I have picked, or two things I'm picking from both of you and your energy, is that if you know that what you're doing is right and you believe that it's focused to change someone's life out there, you do not have to give up. You have to keep doing. So our dear listeners, or those who are watching us, if you are a young person and you're out there chasing something that you know is going to change someone's life in your community, do not pay attention to the negative energy. It's going to be there, but if you know that you're doing something right, you have to keep doing, you have to keep going. So one of the people who are watching or who are listening to us has, I think Ubah has kind of answered what he asked, but he was asking and he was inquiring, like, when was, have you had that point where you felt hopeless?
And multiple times. And I think that any activist and in the world probably had one or two times and or more where they felt and hopeless. But every time, for example, Ubah mentioned that our parliament, which has had the election in 2021, and all of the seats have been filled by men, and the people who voted for them were women, and there were female candidates, and that was a sad day for me. But at the same time, although I felt hopeless, I felt very hopeful because the lady who was running in one of the districts in Berbera came in 4th place. That's huge. And, every time I have some people, some of my Somaliland friends sometimes tell me, you are in America, you are in the West, why are you tiring yourself? Just enjoy America, just enjoy your life. And what I say is, you know what? There are, people who have built America. There are people who have built France. There are people who have built the UK, and it's going to take some time where I can look at Somaliland and say, wow, we have like 90% of our rights, but I want to be one of the members who take my country there. If I sit back, with all the privilege I have, including the education I have received, it's unfair. It's unfair to the younger girls. It's unfair to my mother. It's unfair to my aunt. So I have to stand up every single day and make sure that I am doing the least bit I can to make sure that I am contributing something positive to my country, even if I am being silent, even if I am being threatened, because I know that there are a lot of girls, there are a lot of boys who are watching me and saying, wow, we're going to have our rights one day. One day we're going to have good schools. One day we're going to have a competent leader in office. One day we're going to have a competent ministry of education. I want people to have hope in the midst of a hopeless situation.
Wow, thank you, Fahima. Thank you. Our dear audience who are watching us, feel free to send in your questions. We'll be, this is more of a conversation, so we'll be reading out your questions, and you can type them in the chat and we will be able to read them too, so that they can be answered. So feel free to do that. I have a question, and this question is more to do with why do you think that we need an intercontinental platform for young people to address issues affecting them? Why do you think so? From what we have shared already, we have realized that you can be anywhere in the world and you can still advocate for change. You can still have an impact. But in Africa, we still have a challenge of having platforms that allow us to have that connection from Nigeria, from people from Ghana, people from Uganda, having that one platform where we can address such issues, people from Somaliland. Why do you think we need these kinds of such platforms to address issues affecting young people?
Thank you so much, Susan, again. I think for me, having an intercontinental platform where the African youth could share their opinion, where they could share actually their vision and mission is really important, because at the end of the day, we need to develop and care about our continent, care about our local politics, our local issues, because we shouldn't always look up to the West to look for solution. I think the solution is within us, but we just need to share our mind, share our brain, share our knowledge, and come up with the concrete and answers. And I think the youth can play a pivotal role when it comes to solving Africa's issues and Africa's problems. When you look at the Africa as a whole, you see the African Union. It's a failed institution. It's a failed system funded by the West, at least. And we always rely on the African Union, but the African Union cannot do anything itself because it's run by politicians who don't actually care about the African youth and their contribution to the country, to their countries and to the continent as a whole. So if we have intercontinental platforms where youth could come, for example, what we are doing today, you have a lot of youth who are joining us from different African countries or elsewhere, at least who are sharing their opinions, sharing their stories, sharing how they see the future of the continent. At least we can create a network, and networking is very important because we all have at least a common ground. It doesn't matter whether you are from Somaliland, from Ghana, from Burkina Faso, from South Africa. At least having that continental platform will connect us, and at least it will unite our voices, it will unite our forces, and we can fight together. Because if we are together, we will reach something. But if we are like fighting individually, we will not do anything, at least. So that's why I believe in to solve Africa's problems, we need to have intercontinental platforms, social media, digital and social media spaces where we can meet and talk to each other, especially when you are from East Africa, especially when you are from Somaliland, Somalia, that side of the world is always alienated. We need to be a part of, the greater continent and the greater Africa, so we can at least feel like our voices are included in the political system and, and the solution platform, at least.
Wow, thank you. So Sayed is asking a very amazing question, like what has been one of, let me try to get it very well. Yes. What was your earliest memory of any form of deliberate obstruction or hindrance you faced? Which was your light bulb moment for you both? So Fahima could maybe answer this, like what has been that deliberate obstruction, but again, it became like your light bulb to actually make you become a social activist?
That is a great question. I would say, I remember when I was really young and my mom and dad got a divorce when I was a kid, and I remember them going to the court every single day to decide who would take custody of the kids. And although I was really young, and I remember the day that the judge told my dad, "You take the kids. My mom won't keep us." And I remember all of us, although we were very, very, very young, I remember all of us crying, and my mom was she felt hopeless, she was crying that she just kept, shoving us into my dad's car. And the judge that day didn't give my mom the justice, okay? From what I remember, my mom was the one who raised us. My mom who was there for us. I love my dad, but my mom was the one who was there for us every single day. We wanted to be with our mom. I remember talking to the judge and telling him that, okay? But the judge told my mom and my family step outside, and he was talking to my dad and his, family inside, and said, "Okay, you take the kids." And I don't know what happened that day, but I know that my mom didn't receive justice. And from that day on, when I saw the tears on my mom and every single thing she has been through to make sure that we receive the education so that women like her don't go through what they are going, what my mom have went through. And that's why I love studying law. That's why I love reading the Somaliland Constitution. That's why I follow the legislation that are being passed. That is why I am committed to make sure that my mom's experience isn't an experience that another woman or another child witnesses.
Wow, 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 wow. That is really touching. And I don't think there is any other more bigger example more than what you've just said, because I think this was more emotional, and it was, I'm so glad that it didn't take you down, but you used it for you to light the path for other women. Thank you for that, Fahima. And I have one good comment that I have to read before I go into another question. Zainab is saying, our beautiful young Somalilanders, Ubah and Fahima, we are so proud of you, of your strength and resilience, and keep on your momentum. I can tell you that people are super proud of you and for what you're doing. And I believe that our audience is learning one or two things and from what you've shared with us so far. And it's such a wonderful sharing. And I can tell you that from here, so many of us are going to rethink about our ideas and go home and do something. So in that regard, I would like to welcome Ahmed Alabi, our other panelist. He has just joined us. You are most welcome. You have just found us when we are already in a very amazing conversation, and it is a lot we are learning and a lot we are getting from these amazing ladies. So Ahmed, I will give you an opportunity to talk about yourself, introduce yourself, and tell us what are you doing, and how have you used digital platforms to help people or young people in your community? How are you causing that change in your community? Thank you, and you're most welcome. You're muted, Ahmed, please unmute.
Yeah, perfect. I can now. So I'm so sorry for joining late.
It's
Yeah,
all right.
so, yeah, but it's nice to be here. And I believe that Fahima and Huba have shared a lot already. And I don't know if there's anything that is left for me to share. But anyways, my name is Ahmed Alabi. And whenever people ask me to introduce myself, I used to say I'm a product of grace and circumstance. And the reason why I used to say that is because grace brought me to this point and circumstance led me to this work. If I hadn't gone through what I have been through, I don't think I'll be doing this work today. I used to tell myself that because, for example, I mean, like I was born and raised in Makoko. That's not an example. I was born and raised in Makoko, and it's known for like the largest floating slum in Nigeria. Basically, I lost my mom when I was 7, and my dad became unemployed at the same time. And at some points, I was out of school, and my brother was also out of school for academic year. And when you're born or raised in those community where you lack access to the opportunities and resources, to do things, you might be thinking, how would my life end? But the truth is that sometimes all we need is that support and mentoring. So I could recall there was a program I attended when I was 13 or 14 years old. And in that program, we were taught what self-esteem is. And in that program, they said self-esteem is the way you see yourself and the way you see the world, and the way you handle yourself and the way you handle the world. So starting from there, I knew that I needed to do something about my community. I needed to create change. I needed to start somewhere. I remembered when I was not in school, my dad's hands, would, we would raise money through her. And also my dad as well would, hawk CDs in the streets so that I can get into school. Sometimes during my holiday, I'll come back home and I'll hawk sweet and spaghetti. Like I'll carry a tray of sweets and also spaghetti, like walking within the streets. And all of those moments actually brought me closer to the problem and challenges in my community. I mean, most times I saw people, whose condition were worse than mine, people who couldn't even eat 3 square meal. So I saw all of those challenges and I knew that I needed to do something about it. So at the age of 15, I completed my secondary education and I started teaching in a rural community. I was 15 years old and I was teaching. And, I would say, I could recall when I was teaching, I would, introduce playway method to teach, and right from there, I knew that it would be education. I knew that I would do something around education. So because of the mentoring, because of that support I got, from that program, I wanted to pass the baton down for so many children in rural communities and underserved communities who don't have access to the education, to the skills, to that tools, to that mentor who would guide them through. So I believe that I used to say, and it's a World Bank article, that life starting point is a lottery, but our future shouldn't be left to chance. It's not our fault, that we're born in the community we're raised in. Sometimes it's not our fault that, you end up going through war or all of those challenges that you've been through. Sometimes it's not our fault, it's just the circumstances, basically. But the future shouldn't be left to chance. And that's the reason why I do the work that I do in helping children in the community that I was raised in, in rural and underserved communities, to ensure that they have access to the resources and tools to succeed. And that's why I started an initiative that does that, basically. So how have I used digital, media, or how have I used, digital tools to transform myself? I think when you work in the kind of space that we work in, change making space, you might not have access to any opportunities if you do it in silos. And I think the first thing that gave me that pathway was me being online first. And I would say that I won't be able to be online to access opportunities if my dad, when I was 13 years old, my dad picked me. We're living in Bariga, it was another slum. And my dad picked me and sent me to a computer school. I was 13 years old, literally. And I went to like a computer school where I learned, like, I was the youngest in that computer school. Like, we have adults, like this was 2006, like when, the internet is still booming kind of thing, I was there, a very young person. I didn't even know anything, but I was in the computer school and that was where I learned like basic word processing. I learned graphic design. I could recall then we were using like Corridor 9 to design graphics and all. So I learned all of those things in the computer school, and I learned about internet. In fact, I did like a basic web design using HTML. Then I was just 13. Like, absolutely, I was just doing those little things, but those things actually gave me, a pathway and a platform to be able to use, digital technology. I could recall, when I have assignments in school, I would go to like a cyber cafe and I would go type, find a map of this, find a map of that. So I was learning geography through the internet, but that gave me a pathway to be able to access opportunities online, to be able to even search information. So if you don't give young people digital literacy skills, how do they want to search for information? How do they want to search for information that will help them succeed, right? So, so I think being that digital literate person is what, brought me online in the first place. And I had access to social media I wasn't using really. But I started doing this change work, joined Red Cross at the university, did a lot of like community development work, and I wasn't telling the story. Nobody was hearing, and I knew the only way I could tell the story is social media. So if you don't, I would say that sometimes if you don't tell your story, nobody will tell it for you, and you won't be able to see the opportunities or connect to the opportunities. Sometimes a sponsor is just waiting for you. The sponsor is there and it's just waiting for you to share. So for me, the social media now gave me the pathway to tell my story because I was doing this work and nobody was hearing. So I knew that like the newspapers in Nigeria would not publish me. BBC would not probably hear me. Or one platform will never carry me. That was one thing that I said. I'm like, they won't come to my rescue. Basically, I have to come to my own rescue. I have to be my own transformation. I have to be my own trumpet. And, social media gave me the opportunity to start telling the story. So when I did a project then during my National Youth Service, so in Nigeria, after you graduate from the university, you go to the National Youth Service. And I executed 6 projects, community development service projects, personal one, And I never said anything about them. So for the first time, I shared on social media, and one person said, Ahmed, you can apply for this opportunity. And that was the Mandela Washington Fellowship. That was like in 2016. And I applied, I didn't get in. I applied for many numerous other opportunities then, and I didn't get in. But what happened during that moment and during that process is that I started finding network. I started finding, I didn't get that opportunity, but I started searching, for different things. I could recall when I didn't get the Mandela Washington Fellowship. When I applied then, there were like online courses to take. I took 16 yearly online courses within 3 days. Like I took 16 courses within 3 days. I was just like learning and taking it, all and building that network. And those networks were really important to the opportunities I later got within the sector. And, telling my story got me opportunities, got me into radio station, got me into TV to speak about my work. I remember there was a time I shared, like I had to go to LinkedIn and I followed every radio broadcaster that I know in Nigeria. Like I connected with them to get me to get into their show. I didn't ask them. I just connected with them. I didn't request. So when I connected with them, I went on, LinkedIn one day when I got an opportunity to go to South Africa as an SDGU champion. And I just said, I just typed the story and I tagged one of the presenter, I tagged her on that post. Guess what? In 5 minutes, she reached out to me and brought me on her show. And that was it. So sometimes, if you don't tell your story, nobody will tell it for you. And sometimes social media gives you that opportunity to amplify your work. And the reason why, I'm in the room today, probably in many other rooms that I've been to, was through social media. So, and that's also accounts for digital literacy as well, and the digital opportunities that I've gotten over time. I mean, I could go on and on how, digital technology has really helped me in assessing opportunities. I know there is downside to social media currently. I know people are burning out because of social media. I know people are constantly comparing themselves with other people because of social media.
Yeah, Ahmed, I believe you have a lot to share. Sorry, I will cut you short. I just want to say thank you so much for that wonderful sharing. Our young people, everyone who is on this platform, our audience, I believe you're learning from it. I know that today is a day of a girl child, but it is a day for young people. Ahmed's story tells you that you can be your own tabloid, and that's what social media does. It gives you an opportunity to be your one to break even and to be your own tabloid. You break your own news and then people will come looking after you. So do not fear going into those wonderful engagements. And I would like to remind our audience that one of those platforms is the Baobab platform. Baobab platform is a platform that allows you to speak without being limited. So Angela maybe can help us and put a sign up page in the chat. For those who have not yet signed up to the Baobab platform, you could use that opportunity to sign up and have an opportunity to engage with different young people. The platform has over 8,000 users, and these are young people. These are people who are in different parts of the world, and you don't know who you can meet there. You don't know what you can learn there. So use that opportunity and sign up to the Baobab platform. It is one of those social learning platforms. So feel free to join. The link has been put in the chat. For those who are not on the Baobab page yet, you can do that. So in the comments, I don't want to forget about the people that have been commenting in the chat. Everyone is saying thank you, our guests, for sharing your stories. They are very powerful. They are engaging. But I will go back to Ahmed. I ask you to be a little bit brief, because we will also have to open a Q&A for our participants to be able to ask their questions.
Yeah.
But in your bio, you shared that you work with refugees. And sometimes refugees are people who are always the last to get services. How have you taken these platforms to the refugees? How are you addressing issues affecting refugees? And I believe that when we talk about refugees, of course, there is a big population of young people in the refugee camps. So how are you dealing with that challenge of where there is limited access to internet, maybe. How do you reach out to them? How do you help them? Kindly share with us.
Again, I might not really have lots to share about this, but I think I'm deeply inspired by the young refugees that I've been able to work with. And I think I would center their story in this conversation. And I wouldn't want it to be my story, basically. I think in 2019 to 2020, up to 2020, I was a regional manager with Peace First. And it's an organization that supports young people to create social change within their community and provide them with the resources and tools and money to do that. So there was this young man who applied for our grants, and I had a coaching call with him. And during COVID, he created a solution where refugees within Kakuma refugee camp, his name is Nia Deng, is like an inspiration. And he created this project where refugees within Kakuma camp could have access to information, COVID-19 information. And I think he's able to do that because he has had some level of education within a camp. And he has also been able to have access to like phone and resources and the internet to do that, basically. So people like Nia shows us that when refugees have access to the tools, to the education, there's like, like they can fly and they can do amazing things and they can be the change, within their communities or within their societies. And that was what, Nia did. And, just watching Nia create that change and, also teaching young girls within his camp, digital skills. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, this is brilliant. This is like an amazing project. And that's why, when I had the opportunity to work on the MasterCard funded project, basically it's a MasterCard Foundation funded project, which is the FFA program. When I had the opportunity to intern on that program, I jumped on it. And I remembered co-creating a mentoring program where we connected MasterCard scholars from Makaruri University, from American University of Beirut, and from University of Edinburgh, these are MasterCard Foundation scholars who served as mentors for refugees in Uganda, in Kayode and Kampala's camp and Kayode settlement. So they served as mentors to those young people and to the other refugees there. So when I saw those changes happening, I decided to write about this in my dissertation. And during my master's program, I decided to write about this. So I wrote about looking at the experiences of refugees in assessing our education. And during that process as well, I referenced the organization that I'm currently working with. And my supervisor asked me like, oh, Ahmed, can you give me more context to what you've written about this organization? So I'm like, okay, let me search. So I went to the organization website and I decided to search, and I said, let me even check current jobs, whether they've gotten any current jobs. So I looked at the current job and I saw that there were two roles, educational mentoring coordinator and, further education project coordinator. I applied for the two roles. I got into the final of the two. I didn't get one and I got the other one. And now I'm working with Refugee Education UK, where I get to support young refugees and asylum seekers, within the UK and connect them to like mentors, who provide educational support once in every week. And the truth is that the mentoring program that I interned in during my master's program played a greater role to getting this opportunity and also working on it in my dissertation. So the message here, now I'm diverting, but the message here is that this is a personal message, basically, be present. When you are given a job, be present at the job, because the skills you need to get another job, is in the current job you're doing. So be present at the job and build the skills and build the necessary skills. And from the young people I'm working with here in the UK, like, it's just so inspiring to see that what they can create, what they can do, and I think when we offer resources and tools for young refugees, when we provide them the opportunity, they can succeed. Niyal is currently in Huron University in Canada. It's doing really great. And he has spoken at the UN, spoken at different platforms. So that's what it means when we allow young refugees to fly, by providing them with the necessary education. Yeah, I'm just looking at
Thank you, Ahmed. I think you've actually answered my question. Yeah, and I think the most important thing is that if we give them an opportunity to study, education is key, of course, and it opens so many doors for the people that we are trying to impact. And I like the experience. I like the fact that you are telling us that we have to work hard and we cannot sit and wait. We have to go out there and search. Probably we have in my culture, we have a saying that if you need help, you need to step out of the house, and you never know when you are on the road, that's where you will meet someone to help you. So if you stay inside the house, you will die with your problems. So it is very important that you step out of the house and you get a solution. So I would like to say thank you so much, our dear participants. And since it is 8, I would like to open the room for before I give I ask my final questions. I will open the room. If there is any person in the audience who wants to ask a question to our panelists, feel free to unmute and ask your question. We have only like 30 seconds for you to ask the question and 30 seconds for the panelists to answer that question. Yes. So there is Sandra and Hassan. If you can unmute, Sandra, you can go first and ask your question. Sandra, are you there? Or Hassan, if you're there, you can unmute and ask.
I think Daniel said he has a question in the chat as well.
Okay, Daniel, can you unmute and ask as we wait? I see Sandra are you there? I see you're muted, Sandra, if you can unmute and ask. Yes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Kambai Daniel. I'm from Nigeria, from northern part of Nigeria. So I was so happy. My question goes direct to Mr. Ahmad. I was so happy when he was like his contribution. I was highly, highly impressed, despite the fact that I'm studying in Uganda here. So, and then from one of his profile, from those things he said that he was like assisting those guys, the refugee in Uganda here. I was highly impressed. So Mr. Ahmed, my question goes like this. How can you also assist us? We have a lot of refugees in Nigeria and especially in the northern part. That is where I'm coming from, especially from Kaduna State, Meduguri, all these things. So like, how can you really help us, or how can we work together to see that we could remove those 10 million girls that are sitting at home doing nothing in the northern region of Nigeria, especially Kaduna State, Kano, Meduguri, and all these things. So how can we do to bring this 10 million out of, because they are doing nothing. I've been there. That's why I grew up. So honestly, I don't know how you can help us. That's just my question. I'm sorry if it's not too clear.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really a great question, and thanks for asking. I really appreciate that. Basically, I think there are already organizations who are already working on this issue, but I understand that it's not enough. We need more people to be on board to work on some of these issues, basically. And I hope someday I would have the capacity and the power to reach many of these communities, because most of the people I work with are within rural and underserved communities within some certain part of Nigeria, majorly Southwest, but we're trying to get into the north gradually. But yeah, I'm really happy to talk about these issues and even get to understand the issue more, basically, because one of the things is that it's very easy to see problems, but we need to understand why is that happening. I think that's the question we need to ask ourselves. So it's very important to also be more clear on the problem, because I understand that sometimes there is more to the problem and to that challenges. So really important to deepen our knowledge. And one of the ways also to, bring these issues to fore is to have conversation about it, which you're already doing. I think by mentioning this is to you've created awareness, basically, and awareness is the beginning of transformation. So I think there is much more to like, continue to talk about this issue. And personally, as you said this, I'll go research, like I'll go read about this issue. And if it happens that I'm in a room or somewhere, maybe within a policymaker who can make change within Kaduna to ensure that, young girls who are refugees or who are internally displaced can have access to education, I'm going to do that. And I've seen, if I keep going, I will.
Ahmed, 1 minute.
Let me just stop. Yeah, I just wanted to stop because if I keep going, I have examples to share. While I was in Abuja, when I went back to Nigeria recently, I was in Abuja and I watched a documentary of internally displaced people and refugees that UNHCR basically supports within Borno. Like one of the camps, I was there. I was watching, it was a virtual reality and I could see the condition, even the classroom, the situation in the classroom. And, they are being supported by UNHCR, obviously, but I think UNHCR cannot do everything. We need the government actually to take action. When young people, the Children Rights Act, basically, as I know in the UK, the government is responsible for every children who is a refugee. Like every children who is a refugee, the sole responsibility is the government, and they need to take care of these young people. They need to provide adequate education in a good environment, in a good, space, in a good condition. So we need to start talking about these issues. We need to start,
Okay.
hold
Ahmed,
the government really, really
sure.
accountable. No. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. We have limited time. So maybe what Daniel can do is get in touch with you and have your contact so that you can have more deeper conversation regarding that. We have 2 more questions from Rosine. Rosine, please unmute, and then Mustafa, you will also ask after Rosine has asked, and then we can get the answers. Rosine, if you're there, please unmute.
Okay, thank you so much, Susan and the panelists. My question goes to Ubah Ali, and I want to ask you, how do you feel fearless to talk about, to address those big issues in the community? I have been following you in Lebanon. You have been addressing domestic workers issues, African domestic workers, and you have been addressing the issues related to female genital mutilation. And those are big topics, and sometimes it touches the government and everything. So how, as a young people, do you address those big topics without fear? How can you tell us, like, how can you, advise us on just to take step and without fears? That's what my question is. Thank you.
Thank you. Ubah, I will request you to hold on to that question, and let's get another question from Mustafa. Mustafa, if you're there, please unmute and ask your question. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to ask Ahmed, my question goes to Ahmed. I would like to ask him, I'm from Somaliland, and helping our country and helping the citizens. I understand from what you said that you know more in the internet and that. So how could we build in courses that will teach the students to, learn how to share things through online and marketing and e-commerce and all of that? So do you have any ideas about that? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mustafa, and thank you, Rosine, for that wonderful question. So I will request Ubah Ali in 1 minute to answer Rosine's question, and Ahmed can also answer that question in 1 minute, Ahmed. And yes, then we also have a hand from Israel. He also has a question for Ahmed. Is it okay, Ahmed, to take those 2 questions together, or you want to ask?
Yes, I think I can take the 2 questions together.
Okay, Israel, can you unmute? Can you unmute and ask, or if you are still trying, Said has a question for Fahima. Can you please unmute Said and ask your question? Said, are you there?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Okay, yes, I can hear you. Go ahead and ask Fahima your question.
Firstly, I'd like to thank all the participants, everyone that's joined into this space. It's been a fantastic listen. Thank you, Penelope, for bringing together these fantastic people. Great speech from all of them. I'd like to ask Fahima, in regards to women empowerment and women injustices that not only happen in Somaliland, but by extension, the whole continent of Africa and throughout the world, I guess. We know that the private sector has a bigger impact, especially the digital social medias. You can reach so many people via the private sector. Have you thought about maybe introducing some apps or some instruments where women can collectivize and come together to overcome these struggles, specifically women, whether it's an app that introduces alarms for, I guess, harassment, or whether, pinpointing certain atrocities that happen to women, or whether it's just coming together and introducing a cooperation to help sisters and women in general, or job opportunities for women and equality as a whole and equity as a whole for women. These kind of things that you've thought about introducing, as well as obviously the political standpoint, maybe the private sector as well. Thank you.
Said, for that amazing question. I will take, as I said, my dear panelists, 1 minute for answering those questions. So I will start with Ubah, 1 minute, answer your question, Ahmed, and then Fahima, and I will get the question from Sandra. So go ahead, Ubah.
Thank you, Rosine, and I miss you so much. To answer Rosine's question, I think it takes a dedication, it takes a courage, and it takes a commitment when you want to talk about some topics, or when you want to address, powerful individuals. I think first you should know what you are doing. You should do your own research. You should understand why there is a problem, but also you should have a strong friends that will be there for you the days that you are down. People that will support you regarding the situation. And I think one of the reasons that I continued my activism and I always address these sensitive topics is that I always have many powerful young women and men who always understands my point of view and who are always willing to sacrifice everything for me, and because of their courage, their motivation, that's why I continue what I do. But also I know if it's not me, who will it be then? I should be the one who addresses this topic. I should not wait another person or a person from another country to come and address these issues. If I am there and I see the injustice, I should talk about it. It doesn't matter if I am the privileged one. It doesn't matter if I am the minority. It doesn't matter what. As long as you are able to write and to do something, do something. It doesn't matter. Like, you might be targeted, you might be, alienated, but those things, everyone that made a huge impact or, left a legacy, they had so many challenges, and, you are one of them. So don't worry about that, but just make sure your mental health and your well-being comes first, and, create a network of people that you feel connected and you feel, you belong to them at the end of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ubah. Thank you so much. Keep motivated, have the right people around you, keep your mental health is very important. So guard it so much. Ahmed, 1 minute to answer the question that you received from one of the participants.
Yeah, so I just dropped a link in the chat and it does answer the question. Basically, I think there are like several Google digital skill courses that you can take, basically just to get to know more about digital skills, e-commerce and all. And I think you could start by taking the course, and once you learn, you can actually teach others as well. I think that's really important, not to hold knowledge to ourselves and to teach others. So I feel like if you can have access to internet, in fact, if you can join this meeting, I think you can take on the course basically. And I think on Baobab platform, there are a couple of courses as well, or that you can also take. But I've shared a link to like Google Digital Skill course. I mean, I remember taking one in 2017. It took like days and days before completing it, but yeah, there are many Google digital course. Just like type on Google digital skill course, and then you see like numerous ones that you can take. So I hope that really helps. Yeah, I think I've answered that question. It's good.
Thank you so much. Yes, there are so many platforms that give online courses. You can Google them, you can be able to get, and Baobab platform has so many courses, and they are free, and you also get to earn yourself a certificate, and they are not too long. You can be able to do them in a space of 2 to 3 hours, but they are very informative and very profound. We'll go to Fahima. Please go ahead and answer your question. And then Sandra, please be ready to ask your question when Fahima is done. Thank you.
And thank you, Penelope. And so it asked a great question. So currently, and I haven't been working on any apps or working with the private sector, but what we do is that we work with other organizations that are also working on empowering Somaliland women. And I am also currently working on creating a foundation or a fund that sponsors and women's education, and that is trying to create a female orphanage, just a female orphanage, and that has a school where girls have a good way of, receiving education and a good shelter. So, and in order to start up this foundation, I would be forced to work with the private sector and other organizations in order to start raising money for these two projects.
Thank you so much, Fahima. Thank you so much. So Sandra and Abdullahi, I hope I'm pronouncing your name very well. Sandra, go ahead, ask your question, and then Abdullahi can. And then I think I will be done with the questions from the minutes left.
Hello, everybody.
Then I can. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Hello, Sandra? Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Thank
Yes.
you so much. This was really an eye-opening, and it was really great. And thank you all. I have one question for Ubah and Fahima, which regards feminism. We all know feminism is not against it's against the unfair culture and traditions in our culture in Somaliland. It's not about being against religion, and it's not about like competing with men. It's about women having equal rights, just like men. So like our society has a different view where they think feminism is like a liberalism or like bringing other people's ideologies. So how can we redefine and show that feminism in an Islamic version, in a Somali version, that it's not about competing with men, it's not about being against the men, it's about women having equal rights, which the religion also has given. And also, how can we show that our culture is not evolving? If everything else in everything else in our aspects of life is evolving, our culture is stuck and not evolving, and that has been one of the main issues against the feminism. So how can we redefine it and show that it is not against the religion or against the men? It is for women's rights. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, my dear. Fahima and Ubah, hold on to that question and let us get our last question from Abdullahi, and then you can go ahead and answer. My dear, please unmute and yes.
I hope that's me. Yeah.
Yes.
So thank you so much all. My question, Fahima and Ubah, I'm always impressed with you guys, and I'm so proud of you. My question is for you two. If the group doesn't know, you guys are sisters and are in these platforms raising the voices of the unheard. So how has your relationship over the years built you, and the support you guys have has helped you in your endeavors? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So Ubah, Fahima can go first, answer both questions, and then Ubah will go next. We have 1 minute, and we are only left with 10 minutes to end our conversation. It has been great. I feel like I don't want to end it, and but we have to end it. So let's get into those two questions and then we will have our final comments.
And thank you, and Penelope and Sadra, for asking that question. So if I try to answer it, and what people try to do in Somaliland is that they try to use anything that has any connection to the West, although the phones or the computers and they use came from the West. But when they try to use feminism against my thoughts, what I try to do is use their line of thinking. So, my religion is Islam. We practice the same religion. And I say, why are you calling me a feminist when the person I am following is Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's wife? She was his boss. She had money. She had autonomy. She was a successful woman. She was a businesswoman. Why aren't you allowing people like me and other girls to be successful women when Prophet's wife sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a businesswoman? I say, why are you telling me that I am following the West when America didn't have a vice president for 245 years, I believe, and Muslim nations like Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Tanzania had, female leaders, they have female judges. Why do I have to look into the West when I can look into the Islamic world? So, what they are trying to do is that they are using feminism, to scare me. They are using feminism to tell people she's bringing something from the West. This is something that's not in our culture. It's not in our religion. And because a lot of people in my country, don't read or have followed people who have suppressed them for a while, and I try to use a language that doesn't threaten them. I just question them back and I say, if this person was able to do this, and you are following this person's example, why can't you allow me to do the same thing? And then they have no answer. They say that a quota for women in politics shouldn't be allowed. And then I say that, yes, you are right that a quota isn't written in the constitution, but why is there a quota for, the clan members? Why, if you are arguing against any quota, then you should get quota and all of it together. And then people don't have anything to say. So I guess, what I try to tell people is that I follow Islam, and Islam has given me specific rights that you are not giving me, and I will fight for them, and I will use Islam against your arguments, and I will not insult you. I will not call you names. I don't consider myself to be a Western feminist. I just consider myself to be someone who is fighting for my rights and the rights of women. And to answer Faruma's question, and yes, Ubah and I are sisters. She is my older sister, and over the years, and we have developed a close relationship. She is a role model for me. I remember a time where Ubah was told, you're too old for school, don't go to school, get married, have kids, and she said, watch me become a politician, watch me become a businesswoman, watch me lead, watch me become a mom. I can become all of these things. She has persevered, and she's one of my greatest role models because I have seen her shattered walls. And I am so proud of her and people like her are who and what's inspiring me to be the best version and that I can be.
Everyone needs a sister like Ubah. Ubah, please go ahead and answer that question, and we'll probably be coming to the end of our amazing conversation. I just don't want to end it. It is so beautiful. I know that so many people are just feeling the way I am feeling, and I can see all that in the comments. So Ubah, please go ahead and answer that question, and then we'll go into our final questions for our event today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susan, and thank you so much, Fahima and Fatma and Satra, who asked the questions. If I go back to the earlier question, I think it's very important that it's not about religion. Fighting for women's rights is not about, something that's against religion. I think, it's clear that religion show us and gave us, all the justices and all the things that we need to strive. So religion has been used as a political tool, and it became a weapon where men usually, used to suppress women and to make sure, women do not get out there, fight for their rights, because religion became something that people can manipulate at the end of the day. So I think it's very important that, men always act like as the gatekeepers of the religion. Women also have to understand they have a say in the political decision in every sector of life. And if always you see that men who are attacking you because they tag you and stigmatize you as being a Western feminist, I think there's nothing wrong with that. You are irritating them, and you should use that, and you should use your voice in a way that you could continue to pressure them, because patriarchy is a very strong culture, and if we don't try to dig deeper and understand the roots of this system, we will not be accepted, and we will never be a part of the the bigger community that we are fighting for. So I think that's very important to understand that, in order to shatter, walls, you have to make sure you understand the roots of this issue. And men, they do not want anything that, pressure their, role in society, or, their long-lasting, superiority. So, as a woman, you always feel like you have a lot of challenge ahead of you, but just know that there are so many other women who are like doing the same thing, and there are so many men who also support women's rights, and there's nothing wrong with that, and they also can be called a feminist. There's nothing wrong with that. And to the second question, I think to begin with, like when Fahima and all of us wanted to go to school, because I have three sisters and 4 brothers. My mom were being told that she should not send her girls to school because she's wasting money, and she should keep that money for her sons. And for me to be the eldest and challenge my mom and tell her, I will be a role model, I will show you what we can do, just give us the chance. I think from that start, from a young age, I had something to accomplish. I had always, that force that pushing me. And I remember people who doubted my potential. Now they call me and they tell me that they are so proud of me. And I think it takes dedication, it takes the hard work, it takes commitment, it takes nights of sleeplessness. But at the end of the day, you can do it. And, as long as you trust your inner self, as long as you trust the inner child in you, that it takes to be, the woman that you could be. And to reflect on International Girls' Day, I think if I could give a thank you note to my younger self, is that I am so happy for you, and you are an unstoppable young woman who could do greater things. Thank you.
Hey, wow. I am so glad. Thank you, Ubah. Thank you, Fahima. Thank you, Ahmed. You have no idea how many people you're encouraging out there. I just see so many stars, amazing comments. I'm going to ask 2 final questions to all of you, our dear, amazing panelists. And I know they are the last questions. Maybe you might want to say so many things, but on this journey of your activism, if there is anything you can do different, what would it be? And what is your final advice to the young people on utilizing these platforms to create change in their communities? Thank you. And I will start with Ahmed, since he has been quiet for a while. I need to warm him up. So Ahmed, you have like 1.5 minutes to answer these 3 amazing questions. Do you have a mentor who is helping you to go through this? If there is anything you can do different, what would it be? And what is your final advice to young people in utilizing digital platforms?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of questions to complete within one minute, 30 seconds, but I just want to shine the spotlight on Fahima and Ubah. Thanks for being a great role model, and it's been an inspiration just listening to you share your own story and your experiences and how you've been able to tackle all of those difficulties. I think if I were to be my younger self, I think probably I won't change anything. I think I would just probably live the way I've been living. I think one of the things is to say that that I used to say to myself is, I don't want to, I want to continue to be a better person. And I used to tell people when they meet me, don't think I'm a totally good person because I'm still striving to be good and be better. And that makes me good and better. So I want to always be a better person than when I am yesterday. And that's what gets me going, basically. And yeah, and I just don't know what I'm going to be in the next future, in the next day. But what I know of is that I'll be present for my work and what I currently do. In terms of like, young people and their advice, I would say that don't be scared to move backward. Sometimes I think it's very easy to always want to move forward, but sometimes to move forward, you have to move backward. So don't be scared to always go backward, to start all over again, to pick the pieces together. If you think there's something that you've not learned, you can always go back to learn them. If you think that there's a job you want to get and you have to start all over again, go and start all over again. So don't be scared to move backward. Mentor, I think sometimes we used to think our mentors are big people who have achieved everything, but sometimes your mentor can be your friend. They can be somebody who is sitting beside you. They can be your classmates. And I think people who have been my mentor are people who have been beside me. And I think there are people who I share, day-to-day relationships with. And it's such a pleasure to have those friends, beautiful humans in my life. And one of them is Victoria Ibiwoye. She's really an amazing person. And, I mean, you can go Google her basically. So let me just stop there. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ahmed. Ubah Ali, your last remarks on those questions.
Thank you, Susan and Hamid. I mean, Hamid is one of my role models. I read his book. If you guys don't know, please read. He has 2 books. He has published 2 books, and his story is amazing. So feel free to read about his story. And Hamid, you are one of my role models. You always inspire me. So thank you so much for being there. Honestly, like, I have a lot of mentors. I have a lot of people that support me, but to take this moment, I would like to appreciate my grandma. My grandma is my support system, my advisor, my everything. Even though she never graduated from primary school, she understands the importance of education. She understands the importance of being there for us, being there for me, being there, spiritually motivated me. So she's my everything. I love her to death, and I am here today because of her prayers, because of her kindness, because of her consistent support and motivation. Even though she might not help me to do well in my essays or write my papers or my exams, she's spiritually there for me. When the way she calls me and talks to me, makes me calm. So I think my grandma is the reason that I am here today, and the reason that I am being this Ubah today. So, and of course I have a great family. I have a mom, I have a dad, I have sisters, brothers, aunts who are always, there for me. But, and the group gets bigger. Of course, I have a lot of friends, a lot of friends who are, some of them are here. So I would like to say thank you all, and hopefully one day I will pay back through my actions, through my activism, and through what I stand for. So thank you.
Your final advice to the young people, what would you advise them on utilizing these platforms? Ubah?
So I think, you should create a network. You should always expand your network. It's very important that you interact with people who are from different backgrounds, from different religions, from different cultures. Because if you always limit yourself to your own group thinking group, I mean, you will not understand the beauty of life. So it's very important, go out there every single day. You should have something new to accomplish. Always push yourself, always have an agenda, and make sure, you record yourself. You are not the same person as you were yesterday. So go on social media. Do not use to make fun of other people, take advantage of the social media, reach out to people, apply to scholarships, apply to mentorship programs, apply to, join the Baobab. So my advice to the youth is that, be out there, like no one will write your story for you. As Ahmed said, no one will help you to apply that scholarship. It's all about you and how you narrate your stories and how you see yourself in the upcoming 20 years or 30 years or where you want to end up. So believe in yourself. That's what I would say. Even though you might not have, a lot of us might not have the luxury life, the opportunities, the internet, use the resources that you have wisely, and God is there to help you, and take advantage of the resources, the friendship, the mentorship, your teachers, your everything that you have, because everything happens for a reason. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ubah. Thank you so much. We will get our final comments from Fahima, giving us remarks on those 3 questions. What would you do different now? What do you have mentors who are helping you to go through this journey of activism and using digital platforms? And your final advice to the people, to our audience, and to the young people out there.
Thank you so much, Penelope, Ubah, and Hamid. Today was a very empowering and informative day for me. And I would say I have a lot of mentors. I can't even mention them. All of the Somaliland women are my mentors. They are superstars, and they keep pushing me every day to seek knowledge. I would like to thank all of my siblings and Ubah, my mom, my grandma, as Ubah said, and my dad, and everyone who came today, and all the professors and teachers who have invested in my education and development. And my advice, I would say to young people and women is, I guess I have 3 points. One is always seek knowledge. There is always something to learn. However, please don't use that knowledge as a weapon to submit people into submission. Always know that even if you have a PhD, even if you have a master's, that the person who didn't go to school knows something that you don't know. Always engage in conversations, listen to people, and instead of thinking that you have answers to every question. And that's what makes a society successful. And number 2 is values. Write down the values you have, create and make sure that you don't allow other people to modify or to disrupt your values. I have some values that are important to me, and I'm not going to let people in my country or people in the West try to play with my values. I am my own person. Don't ever be a victim. And my last one is keep dreaming. Dreams are important. Go after them. Eleanor Roosevelt said that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Please dream and dream and dream, and try your best to achieve those dreams. The people after you, your siblings, your family, and women in your country are going to be so proud of you. Keep fighting, keep seeking knowledge, and hold on to the values that are dear to you, and don't let anyone play with these values.
Wow. I just want to give a hand clap to all our panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you for sharing this knowledge of wisdom. I can say my key points have been: keep dreaming, do not give up, listen, and listen. You can learn from so many people, even though they have not gone to school. Go out there, do not stay in your house, in your comfort zone. Avoid being in comfort zone. Reach out, be your own tabloid. Go to those social media pages. Don't just go there to have fun. Go there to learn, go there to impact, go there to connect. Speaking of mentors, personally, I want to say thank you to my dear husband, Ronald. Mukunde has been my biggest mentor. Even today, he has invested in all my data. I didn't have to have any issue to make sure that I could be able to host this event. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for all those that have joined. I would like to say thank you to Angela Nantambi. It has been great. You've been the one in the background, making sure everything happens so well. Thank you so much, Angela. Thank you for making sure that this event happens. I once again want to say thank you to our audience. Thank you for coming. There has been not a better way of celebrating this International Day of the Girl Child. You have made my evening. My notebook is full. Thank you, our dear panelists. Thank you for those amazing questions, our audience, for that you asked. They were super amazing. My final comment is that if you haven't joined Baobab platform, please remember to sign in. It is an amazing platform. You will learn a lot. There are a lot of things to learn from. I just want to wish you a very wonderful evening, morning, afternoon. Our time is now. Our time is here. Let us go and change the future. Go out there, be the change makers, be the voice.
You and I will break it.